This means that most of the staple kicking drills out there can only be classified as a feel skill or a body position skill, but not necessarily a rotation skill. This further means that a lot of us may not have adequately trained the rotational base of freestyle. This is oftentimes the missing link, because the catch gets a lot of attention, but not the rotational base, even if it is a crucial part during the full execution of the stroke. What's the deal with freestyle connection? Is it important, and if so, how do we achieve it? See, to get the full potential of your freestyle, we need to come to terms with the concept that the full stroke means whole body. Even when you're 2-beat kicking, it's still a whole body process. And it starts really simple. The full stroke is a combination of two things. On one hand, you have the pull in relation to the core, and in connection, you have the legs in relation to the core. The big keyword here is the "and" highlighted in red, because both of these elements are always in relation to the core. So let's lay out the skill categories we've identified so far. Are those skills all that we need? Now here's the interesting part. Most pulling related drills, like the one-arm freestyle, already involve some form of rotation. So we're good, right? However, it could be the case that a swimmer has a deficiency in the catch or a lack of understanding of the catch. Does this mean that we cannot isolate this part anymore? Where do we categorize drills such as sculling? And is sculling even worth doing when it does not directly involve core rotation? So just a bit of a trick question there, but the answer really is that this situation implies that there is a skill category even more fundamental than what we have identified so far, and that's the feel for the water category. Now with the kick, the situation is opposite. The most common kick-related drills are done without a direct twisting at the core. This means that even though the core stabilizes as the legs kick up and down, the core itself does not twist. This means that most of the staple kicking drills out there can only be classified as a feel skill or a body position skill, but not necessarily a rotation skill. This further means that a lot of us may not have adequately trained the rotational base of freestyle. This is oftentimes the missing link, because the catch gets a lot of attention, but not the rotational base, even if it is a crucial part during the full execution of the stroke. Now I know I have introduced the zipper kick before, but because this idea and this drill is so new, and I haven't had the chance to film it myself, I will attempt again to push this out as part of the solution to freestyle connection. Let's take a look at our framework again. We know what a flutter kick is. It's when the legs go up and down. So a zipper kick adds a rotational element by twisting the hips so that the foot ends up whipping or kicking the side of the pool. Remember, our purpose here is to train the legs in relation to the core or in relation to the rotational action of the core. We're trying to build a base. This drill works best when done on the back because air intake is not an issue. Plus, we get the benefit of being able to emphasize the upkick, which is really important when it comes to turning the hips to the side. Another main difference between both kicks is the tempo. If sculling is really quick and pulling is big and powerful, flutter kicking is also quick, but zipper kicking is big and powerful. So don't hesitate to slow down the tempo when doing the zipper kick. Good news is, we can use basic equipment to aid in the learning process, but more on that later, because I'll first have to explain why exactly we're rotating from the hips in the first place. Let's look at what the upper body has to do so we get an idea. One side has to streamline and one side has to catch. Both skills require the upper body or the torso to be relatively stable. Here's why. When getting into a streamlined position, your shoulders are naturally flat or square. And when performing the catch, the shoulders have to stay still again, since the hands or the lower arm have to dig into the water. So even if both sides have different intentions, the same requirement remains. There is a need to be stable in the upper body. This leaves us with only one choice: rotation that comes from the hips or the lower body. Which actually makes a lot of sense when we recall that the large lat muscles on our backs originate at the hip. So what happens when we rotate that origin point away from the attachment point at the shoulder? We get a nice stretch or tension that is ready to be released during the power phase. I've marked 3 points here that are absolutely crucial to get this catch position. So any weakness in one point would result in a weakness in the whole stroke. Let's take a look at this swimmer here. Without nitpicking, I can say that the catch itself is good, but this swimmer has reported a lack of connection in his stroke. Now there's not one thing that will give away that someone has poor connection, but looking at this streamlined arm when he's breathing, I can see that the hands are somehow unnecessarily drifting to the side, almost like it's not tied to the rest of the body. Sculling itself will improve your ability to dig in very early, but we only want to keep the inside portion, the in-sweep portion, executing the actual freestyle pull. Resistance from the palms is what we use to generate tension in the body when the rotation occurs, or as the rotation occurs. The hands are grabbing on that imaginary cliff. Now I mentioned nitpicking and how I try to avoid it. This framework should work for most people unless there are major conditions that do not allow us or do not allow you to rotate at the hips or dig in with the shoulder. Here's where internalization cards come in handy. These are still being finalized, so bear with me, but essentially, for this video, I've picked 3 drills that I want you to focus on for freestyle connection. Top on the list is the zipper kick, which is done by lying on your back. You can put your hands down, but honestly this works better with the hands, both hands up. Then try to emulate what's drawn in the card. The card itself has a reminder of what equipment to use, such as bands or fins. If you guys recall, kicking from the hips is best activated when we have a band around our thighs. So we don't necessarily have to remember the specific muscles that we need. We can just use equipment and let the body work its magic. If that's not an option, fins can still be good. Again, the tempo here will be much slower, so don't hesitate to slow down. With sculling, essentially you want to learn how to catch the resistance early. Use paddles to simplify the process. Again, the resistance from the palms is how we stretch out lats. Without this, it will be very hard to create connection in the stroke. And finally, do a simple one-arm freestyle, preferably with the 2-beat kick or a pull buoy. Still, I encourage the use of finger paddles, fins, and even a band. A lot of learning happens in the background of your brain. So I guess this is the twist with our approach. You have to essentially do a ton of these hand-picked drills before you can enjoy your new and improved stroke. So I'll end the topic here. This has been a nice way to talk about an interesting topic while showing you guys what I've been developing in the background. Follow for a lot more tips. Thanks a lot to our patrons, and I'll see you guys next time.